I can tell we're going to have a new leader in the Tonasket area in about 3 or 4 years. Madeline, way to go. Thank you so much. Talk about a big smile. That makes me happy. So we'll talk about Jeff a little bit. We'll talk some more about Jeff. He started out to be a star way back in 1995 when he was part of the first common loon banding crew, which banded loons over in the west side of the state and also in the Bonaparte Lake region. So you can see Jeff Bannon along with David Evers in the center, who is now the director of Biodiversity Research Institute in Portland, Maine. The late Rocky Spencer from WDFW, and then a woman that founded the Loon Lake Loon Society at Loon Lake, Jamie Youngboy. So these were some of the early leaders in the common loon effort in the state of Washington. So this is back in 1995. Ginger and I started our work in 1996, and we were part of the banding efforts from that time period on. So this is Jeff and Ginger and myself at Beth Lake on June the 7th, 2017. And this is Madeline, Abby, Ginger, Megan, and Jessica. And they're posing and taking a look at the decoys that we're setting out at Lost Lake. Dan Furlong helped me out with this. We rolled around in the muck and the mire and put out decoys at the south end of Lost Lake and tried to capture this loon. He came in and got close. We never captured him. It was a failure, as a lot of loon captures are. And we got greasy and grimy, but we had a lot of fun anyway. And I think Abby takes the prize for her dressing apparel. We talked about how she had become dressed out of a lost and found box. So here are the gals again. They're looking through a spotting scope, trying to find balloons out there and whatever else they can get up in the imagery. And there's Dan and Dan down at the lake making fools out of themselves. So Dan and Burr have helped us out for a number of years, and this is very early in our relationship with them. This is when the best fishermen on Loon Lake, or on Bonaparte Lake, perished. That was Papa. You can see Dan holding him. Dan is the second best fisherman at Bonaparte Lake. And that's kind of where our relationship started. It was back in the good days at Bonaparte Lake. Dan built this floating nesting platform for us. It was, I believe, in the year 2005. Bonaparte Lake was undergoing a rapid rise in water level at that time of the year, and we could see that the loon nest was going to be flooded in a short amount of time. We got permission from WDFW. Honest, Jeff, we did. And he said, sure, go ahead, raise the nest, and we hope it'll work. Well, it was quite an exercise. We put the platform out there, and the female just positively would not accept it. She wouldn't get back up on that. And finally the male showed up and came to the nest site, and he looked at her like, why aren't you up on the eggs? And so he just jumped up on this platform and got up and incubated the eggs for his time period. And we waited for 10 days after that, was hoping that those eggs would be okay, because she had been off the eggs for a long time period. And it turns out 10 days later, both chicks hatched. We went back and took this image, and there you can see the 2 chicks that were hatched. That was, I think, in 2005. So we talk about where the loons are in the state of Washington.
I wanted to mention while we were talking about Papa. Okay, I wanted to talk about Papa. Dan Furlong brought in a picture over there. I think you have all seen it. It's Dan holding a loon, and this is out of banding at Bonaparte Lake. And what's pretty extraordinary, I think, about this image, and it kind of brings me to tears every time I think about it, is that loons do know people on lakes. And there are people that they like and accept and remember year after year. So there's a memory that we aren't giving loons, and an intelligence that we need to recognize in loons, because Papa, we had captured him with a net, we put him on a tarp, and we're getting ready to band him, and he's shaking. I could see that Papa was trembling. And Dan was there, and I said, Dan, go behind Papa and put your hands on him and tell him you're here. And Dan did. He walked around, he bent down, and he put his hands on Papa. And as soon as he spoke about 3 words to Papa, something like, "It's okay, Papa, I'm here," the loon stopped shaking, turned around and looked at Dan, and it was incredible. It was just kind of like an amazing situation, and I immediately got tears because I knew what was happening. So anyway, I think from that standpoint, this picture is absolutely a great memory, for all of us to know that loons have feelings, that loons care, and they recognize people, and they have a great memory.
So the historical range of common loons was much farther to the south in western North America, as you can see here. There are some confirmed nests that were in the records, and I was able to draw this line and establish a historic common loon range. And now the common loon range is retracted all the way to this red line here. You can see it has moved about 15 miles per year northward in the west from 1976 to the present. And what we're trying to do is to stop this from retracting farther. Our goal is to apply conservation for common loons in northeast Washington. We want to have common loons in this area in perpetuity. And from our work, from the assistance that all of you have given us, we think that we've done some good. And I can show you some numbers here in just a short time that substantiate that. So this is before settlement in the west. This was a common loon breeding range, and this is where it is now. Our study area is depicted there in northeast Washington. There's a small band of loons also in the King County region, in this location here, that contributes about 1/3 of the common loon population to the state of Washington, and northeast Washington has about 2/3 the number of common loon nesting adults. So the history of common loon breeding in Washington, they used to be very popular. They were a common breeder before the middle 1800s, but then they were drastically reduced because of sport shooting primarily. People thought it was great fun to go attend different events and try to shoot loons because they dove so quickly. So it was real sporting when you'd see a loon come up to be able to blow it away before it could dive again. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife has kept track of loons over the years, so they've been quite diligent with this. We've seen some of their early records. They are good records. We find big gaps in their reporting common loons in the state of Washington. Between 1909 to 1920, 1931 to 47, and 1949 to 1978, there were no nesting sites reported in the state of Washington. So in 1981, WDFW commissioned a study, a statewide survey, to find where the common loons were now nesting in the state. They were only able to find 2 locations. Those were North Twin and South Twin Lakes in northeast Washington. And now, from that really low number start in the early 1980s, we are up to about plus or minus 20 nesting pairs in the state of Washington. This is a location where we do our work. This is northeastern Washington. This is a physiographic map that you can see from Google Earth. We will talk about a few of these lakes, specifically up in the Bonaparte Lake, Lost, Death Beaver Complex. We'll also talk a little bit about the Ferry Swan Long Lake Complex and a little bit about North Twin, South Twin, and Brown. And these three common loon breeding areas were about 80 to 90% of our common loon chick production each year. If we take a look at this map, these are the nesting locations. There are now 22 in Northeast Washington historically, and the number of young that have been raised since 1979 is 261. And you can see the different lakes that are listed here. If you look up here, Lost Lake is the leader in chick production with 47 in that time period. Ferry Lake has done very well with 30. Bonaparte Lake has done very well with 34. We have Ferry, which is 30, and South Twin, which is also 30. Other lakes are sometimes just a one-year event, such as Banks Lake, 2 chicks were there 1 year, Rufus Woods, and you can see the other satellite locations located around these real high productive centers, the 3 that I mentioned earlier. We now have a new territory at Curlew Lake. We have new territories also at Beaver and Beth Lake. And also in 2017, we had a new territory at Black Lake. So that gives you a little historical perspective and the productivity of the common loons in the state in Northeast Washington between 1979 and 2018. So this is a listing then of the lakes, and I enjoyed listening to that song about Lost Lake so much. Lost Lake to us is kind of the crown jewel in all of our memories of common loon work that we have done. It is the most photogenic lake, we think. Maybe Dan and Berta would argue with that. They live at Bonaparte Lake. But it's just a marvelous place to be. We're going to see some imagery from there in just a short time. But Lost Lake is right at the top there, followed by Ferry, South Twin, Bonaparte, and Swan. We'll talk about these lakes as we go on. This is what the common loon productivity graph looks like from the years 1996 through 2018. We started our work in 1996, as I mentioned earlier. We inherited a downward slope on common loon productivity. At first we thought we were doing the harm. We thought maybe that our presence at these lakes, when we were doing our observations of them, was imparting this decline. But then we went and looked back through the previous years before 1996 in the historical records of WDFW, and there had been a decline going on for some time. We were at a low ebb in the year 2002, and there you can see that at that time there were only 6 young produced in the entire state of Washington. We have built up since then, as you can see on this chart, and we've had a real steady increase, as you can see by this polynomial curve here. We had a little dip from 2010, 2013 to 2016, and then we had this rapid increase in 2017 and 2018. So in the year 2018, we had 30 common loon young chicks hatched, and all-time high by far. Previously, we were down in the 20s, so we're very well encouraged by that. You can see the slope of this polynomial best fit curve here is ever increasing, which is a very good indication to us. The chronology of the nesting locations in the state of Northeast Washington River started out with North and South Twin. Actually, it started at Loon Lake back in 1881. This is where we live. I dug back in the historical records, and Loon Lake got its name from a large number of nesting loons in 1881. And it had nothing at all to do with the fact that we would live there later. And the fact that we live at Loon Lake and do loon work is purely coincidental. So there you can see the chronology as things changed. Lost Lake was the 4th lake to join in chick production in 1988. You can see Bonaparte Lake was also very early in 1994. And recent lakes are like Death Lake in 2018, Black Lake over here in 2017. And if anybody wants any of this work, we can provide it to you. If you want all of this history, heaven help you, but it's available to you. So there's a list of the chronology, and you can see the tremendous gap here between South Twin and North Twin in 1981, and Loon Lake back in 1881.